Hi everyone, it's Galen. Today I am showing a set of cards that I made using an ink to stamp technique for both of the cards, and it creates sort of a watercolor look because you add a little spritz of water to it, and I'll show you how to do that, step you through the process. So for the products I have from Unity Stamp Company, the background is Starlight Background. And then I have Woodland Layers stamps for the trees, scallops and circles dies, and decal and stitched dies. I have a moon layering stencil and a graduation cut apart sentiment strips that I use for sentiments for both of the cards. So I began by stenciling the bigger circle for the moon stencil, and I used two shades of sort of a golden color, yellowy orange. Let's see, what are the names of those? They are wild honey and dried marigold. That's what I use for the background on the base of the moon. That's for one of the stencil pieces there. And then I layered it with the other one, which is going to have where the shadows would be. And I used distress ink and black soot for that. And distress ink for the background circle as well. So that black, I wanted it to be dark because the background is going to mimic a night sky, and the inspiration for the whole card is the northern lights. We even had northern lights effects here in Florida recently, and that is crazy. It's never been seen, at least that I know of, all the way across the country. It was beautiful. But that inspired me to make this card with these stamps and the stencil and create the colors using the ink to stamp technique. And so I heat set the coloring on that, and then I die cut the circle. Then I placed inside the MISTI a cream color. It's a light yellow color panel that I'm going to stamp on. I recommend a little bit larger of a panel at first when you stamp this large background stamp, and then trim it down later. But I got close with the size here. I'm still going to trim it down later. So I use ink blending brushes, but instead of adding the color to the cardstock, I'm adding it right to the stamp. And it looks like it's pretty solid, and it does appear solid when you blend it. And I just use large swipes, kind of mimicking what the sky might look like with northern lights. I am not an expert on that. I don't see that here in Florida, but I've seen lots of pictures. So I am adding a few different shades. I did two cards. I used two different shades, two different sets of colors and variations for each card. So it's however you want to do it. I started with more of a turquoise color, and then I added pink. Now I'm adding a little bit of an orangey yellow. And I want to make sure that I cover all of the background with some sort of color and with this blending. And you can overlap these, and I tried to overlap it just a little bit to make it blend better. Then I have a spritzer for water. You just spritz water over that. You see how it's loose? It becomes more like a watercolor effect when you stamp it. Now, I didn't use watercolor paper. I don't think it's necessary for this. I just used a thick cardstock of light yellow paper. And then I used a paper towel to blot off any excess puddles and heat set it with a heat tool. It's so pretty. The other one also is similar, but I think I used a little bit of a light green in there. And so the colors vary somewhat. It's nice to play around with this. So I made two backgrounds, and I wanted to go ahead and use two cards. So I did two of them. And so these trees come in different layers. You can just do one layer of tree down at the bottom, that long one, but I wanted it to look like maybe one side is higher, maybe there's a hill there or something. So I stamped a small set of trees first, and then I added that bottom layer. There was a little spot that didn't get stamped, so I swiped my ink pad over that. Since I knew this was going to be solid, I wasn't so worried about that. I wanted it to be like a solid set of trees there. And it does, if you look closely, you can see that second set looking like as if there's staggered trees in the background, and that's great. And so after all of this was dry and stamped, I added some ink blending around the frame there, the card front, and I did it in black soot, distress ink, and then heat set that again. I added flat double-sided tape to apply it to my card base. And you can just use any sentiments with this. I made this a graduation card, but I added flat double-sided tape to the die cut and added that to the panel. And then I added some splatters to kind of finish off that. I added opaque white paint with spritz of water to dilute it, and then a paintbrush, and just tapped it to add splatters. I also have a splatter brush. Sometimes that works too. I had my brush handy and I used it. I layered the sentiment strips on black cardstock and trimmed it all down with a paper trimmer and added the sentiments to each of these cards. Here's the first one. The difference in the first card is I added the moon using a piece of masking paper. And what happened was it seeped through a little bit. When I did the water spritzing, it seeped on the edges, but it looks nice. It looks like it's a watercolor moon instead of the sharpness of the ink blending moon. So it's however you'd like to do it. I wanted to show both ways. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.